Good evening, out on air. I'm your host, Linda D. Brown. My guest today is Susan, and bear with me, she's been on the show before, and I always struggle with her last name. Okay, I'll let her say it when she comes on. She has been one of our Author Chat members for a long time. It's always a pleasure to have her on the show. So without further ado, we're going to be discussing her two books, The Dreams of the Many and The Dreams of the Few. So let's go ahead and bring on author Susan, and pronounce your last name for me, sweetheart.
It's Obijiski.
Okay, 1 second. Looks like my...
Hang on, you're muted.
Okay, Susan, I can't hear you. Do you have your mic on?
I do.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Not if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
I can hear you. Okay. I don't know why I can't hear you. Hold on. Let me... Okay, now. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I still can't get you.
This is weird.
What's going on here? Okay, so I've unmuted my microphone. Can you check and make sure your microphone is not muted?
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, you know what it is? Hold on. There you are. You know what? I'm so sorry. I was at work. I take my laptop. I take my laptop to work with me, and I had clicked on something, and it announced it to the whole branch. So I had to turn my microphone down. Susan, hi there.
I'm here.
Great. Okay, Susan, pronounce your last name for me.
It's Obijiski.
And now, guys, you see why I have such a hard time with that. Okay. Susan, thank you so much for coming on the Author Chat show. Again, it's great to have you back on. We're going to discuss your two books, The Dreams of the Many and The Dreams of the Few. So
yes.
Let's go ahead and since for those that have never, since the Google Chat, the Google Hangout on air is new, why don't we get started by you introducing yourself and tell us just a little bit about the book.
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's a pleasure to finally get to talk to you again, Linda. It's been a couple of years, but I was looking forward to it. So these books, the second of the three-book series was published the end of April of this year. The first one, Dreams of the Many, was published in 2011. And it's a three-book series. I haven't started on the third book yet, but the book series is actually metaphysical fiction. And it is basically a story that begins with a young boy who is diagnosed as autistic, and to kind of return him to a normal life, he invites 10 adult strangers into his dream, and they basically face their own fears and challenges in order to come out the other end of things and be well. The second book kind of picks up about 7 years after the first one ended, and brings back the characters and talks a little bit about what has happened to them, and then then another kind of dream world reality ensues, and there is another challenge that they have to face. So there are the same characters are in both books. The third book will finish the series, and it's really a story about friendship and dedication and commitment to other people and to overcoming your own challenges.
Exactly. What exactly, Susan, was your inspiration for writing the series?
Well, what had happened over a period of years was that I had been introduced to a number of people who had either children, grandchildren, or neighbors who had autistic children. So one of the inspirations was really talking about how we label people and how it's important for us to look at them in the light of what they have to offer to the world and not assume any limitations. The other was, frankly, a friend of mine who had gone through some very difficult times as a child, and those problems and demons had kind of forced him into his adult life to deal with things differently. And just sort of looking at how we as adults maybe presume that we've turned out normal, and what you really find in this book series is that the adults end up being revealing themselves to be more damaged than the child that we have diagnosed as damaged. So it was an inspiration, I think, of just kind of helping us to remember that we shouldn't be set boundaries and restrictions on ourselves, and that we can really achieve our dreams. But to do that, we really have to face some obstacles and challenges in our lives.
Exactly. Now, Susan, before you wrote the series, I'm sure you did your research about autism and the things that are affecting the characters in your book.
Yes.
The thing that puzzles me is the fact that growing up in the late 50s, 60s, and 70s, we didn't see all of this autism. Now it's like one every, 4 kids. In your research, what did you find that might be a probable cause for this? I don't think it's something that just happens.
Well, no, I don't think it is. I think that there's a couple of things going on. One is that obviously we are better at diagnosing and catching things earlier, but a big part of it is a big question mark in the medical community. And, you know, there are many theories. There is a theory that it is dietary and environmental.
Okay.
There is a theory that has really been disproven, which is that it could be caused by vaccinations. And there really is there's no research to support that. But what we're finding now is that kids who are diagnosed as autistic and younger and given coping skills really are able to live much more normal lives. And there are lots of different diagnoses of autism on the spectrum, from Asperger's, which is very high functioning social skills and people who can hold down jobs, to people who are really have retreated totally from the world.
Exactly. Okay, now for our listening audience, you are actually running a contest with this interview. Tell us a little bit about that and what viewers can win and how they can enter.
Okay, so I have these, they're cute little, I don't know if you can see them, they're like the little cancer wristbands.
Right.
And they are engraved with different messages. Some of them say dream, some of them say courage, faith, love, and so they're giveaways. I'm going to read a little excerpt from the book, and I'm going to ask a couple of questions afterwards, and if people can answer those, I'm going to show you my email address, which you know, I can that way everybody can email me. And so I don't know if you have the capacity to actually let them message you during the Google Hangout, but if not, we can do that by email. They can email me the answer, and then if they get it right, they will get, I will mail them a little wristband, and also send them a link. They can get a discounted autographed copy of Dreams of the Few, and that's the contest that we're running.
Awesome. And I actually do have the chat up and running, so I don't know if you can access it on your end. Do you have that on your screen?
I can't see it here. I can't see it here with my video, but that's okay.
Click on the left-hand side of your screen.
Okay.
And see if anything comes up. And if not that side, then try the other side.
Okay, I do have a group chat. Yep, I got it.
Okay, great. So go ahead, Susan, and post your, read your excerpt, and then first post your first question there, and then you can also post your email address there.
Okay, I will do that.
Awesome.
What I'd like to do is introduce the scene that I'm going to read from Dreams of the Few. This is from the second book. And what you discover when you read the book is that the dream world kind of crosses back into reality. So in this scene, one of the primary characters, Brody Murphy, who's an actor, a stage actor, his wife has a son with him. His name is Logan. And he has a best friend, Olivia, and they are in the bathroom playing with Vanessa's makeup when this dream world kind of intrudes into the reality of Vanessa's apartment. Brody is in the dream, and so it's kind of them looking into this dream through the looking glass, if you will.
Excellent.
So I'm gonna read this and pay attention, and then you might win a prize.
All right.
Vanessa looked down at her son and followed his gaze to the mirror. Olivia was sitting straight-backed on the vanity seat. The top half of her face should have been visible in the mirror, but it wasn't. Vanessa blinked in confusion and looked again. She was staring into open space. A mist swirled and parted behind the glass. Vanessa felt as if she was suspended in open air, a skydiver hovering above an alien planet. Below her, a series of hedges ran away into the distance, surreal, neon green, and perfectly manicured. Vanessa felt faint. She leaned over Olivia and placed her hands on the edge of the vanity table for balance. "Look," Olivia hooted. The child pointed at the mirror with a pudgy finger. In the center of the maze, a small figure made its way through a segment. Vanessa watched as the figure turned a corner and stopped. The maze was gone now, and the green appeared clean-cut and perfectly circumscribed within the corners of the vanity mirror. "Move," Olivia yelped. Logan nudged his mother and tried to climb up on the seat with his friend. "Move," he chortled. The figure started to move again. Vanessa swept her son into her arms and backed away from the mirror, slamming her hip into the linen cabinet that stood against the back wall. Logan wiggled in a desperate attempt at freedom, but she held him in place, ignoring his cries. Olivia scooted onto the table, sending open jars and tubes clattering to the tile floor. "No," Vanessa said, or meant to say, but her mouth was as dry as the Mojave Desert and produced a rasping sound that made the hair stand up on the back of her arms. Olivia pressed her face against the mirror, and Vanessa watched in horror as the child's head merged with the glass. Thin tendrils of mist filtered out from the surface and floated around Olivia's neck. Vanessa felt her heart seize in her chest. She dropped Logan on his feet and lunged forward, knocking the vanity seat away with her left knee. She grabbed at the girl's waist, pulled her backward with all the force she could muster. Her arms shook with the effort as an otherworldly vacuum threatened to suck the girl from her grasp. Logan started to scream, and this time it wasn't a pleasant sound. Vanessa heard a loud pop, followed by a kind of sucking noise, like the wet vacuum her father used to use in his garage. Olivia flew backward into Vanessa's chest and knocked her to the floor. For a moment, there was no sound. Then Logan began to cry. Vanessa called him, and the sound of her voice was muffled. She was reminded of her teenage years and the way her ears felt after attending a loud rock concert. She called to Logan again and heard a faint response. Olivia rolled off Vanessa's chest and lay on her side, breathing heavily. Vanessa got to her knees, turned the child onto her back, and hovered over the girl, looking into her blank eyes. Okay.
Wow, awesome. Okay, go ahead, and I've got the chat.
Ask a couple of questions.
Excellent.
The first one is, what is Vanessa's son's name? And if anybody has an answer to that, besides you, Linda, you can't answer the question.
No.
If you can type it in, or if you can't type it in, if we don't get an answer from anybody, they can still email it to me later after they think about it.
Okay. So I've got the questions on our chat info.
The second one is, what did Vanessa see in the mirror?
Okay.
And the last one is, what is the name of the little girl in the scene?
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, and I am going to type in my email address.
Awesome. Okay.
And then everybody will get to see what you're talking about, that my name is actually difficult to spell.
Not only difficult to spell, but difficult to pronounce.
So if you have answers to the questions, you can email them to me, or you can type them in now. That's fine.
Okay.
What I will do for the winners is I will send them a link to get to the discounted, so that they can get the discounted autographed book, and I will mail that to them along with the little prize that we showed, these little bracelets here.
Exactly.
Showing you. And that's our little contest.
Awesome. Now, Susan, I know you have the books in front of you. Can you hold them up? This is one of the
I sure can.
I love about our Google chat. Okay, so that's the first book, Dreams of the Many. Shift it over to your left. Let's see if that it's going to cover your face a little bit.
Okay.
The other way. There we go. Okay. So that's the first book, Dreams of the Many.
This is the second book.
Okay. and Dreams of the Few. And the series is called Legacy of Dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And Susan, tell me, first of all, who are your favorite characters in the book? Do you have any favorite characters?
Well, I do. I guess as I've been progressing with this trilogy, it's hard not to get attached to characters. Absolutely. I think that Brody, who is the primary protagonist and sort of the hero, unlikely hero, if you will, who has a lot of challenges and a lot of problems. He was abused as a child. He's a recovering alcoholic, but he is sort of the definition, the personification of a good friend and someone who's really committed to trying to do the right thing. So I'm very, very attached to him as a character, because exploring him and really getting to talk to a lot of people who have these issues, I've got a lot of compassion for him. Wow. And I think I hope he has some depth for my readers as well.
Okay. And Susan, what inspires you to write? What is it that gets you up and in front of that laptop and gets you moving each and every day?
Well, Linda, you're an author, so you could probably answer this too, but it's different, I think, for all of us. I think if you don't really like the story you're telling, if you don't like the characters that you're talking about, if you're not in the world that you're creating, right. And that's true of fiction and nonfiction. I think you have to just embrace it and really, immerse yourself in it. One of the things that I think really inspires me is that what I try to do with my writing is to give other people, some hope, some inspiration to say, these are things that people have overcome. And even though this is kind of a metaphysical, fictional series, there are still things in it that I think people can relate to in their own lives in terms of challenges that they've faced in their families. And so I think the main inspiration for me is just trying to tell a story that can hopefully help other people to stand up and kind of face their own challenges in life.
Now, is that one of the things that you hope that your readers can take from reading your series?
It is. I think also there is this whole sense of what we were talking about before, which is, someone being diagnosed or labeled as something and finding out that that's not what they are. So whether it is Casey as the little boy being labeled as autistic and really overcoming those challenges and becoming something else, or Brody who's trying to stay on the wagon and not drink and have a normal life and get married and have children. I think what you want is for people to see that labels really don't mean too much at the end of the day.
Right. And I'm going to tell you, Susan, I find labels to be very destructive. I think that labels are one of the reasons why we have such a bad problem with bullying in the world. And and I actually came up with that realization actually a couple years ago. For some reason, it just kind of popped in my mind that the way we label people is really a huge problem, especially here in the U.S. So I really hope that people that actually get a chance to pick up your book will actually see that you're talking about the facts that that there are people that, like you said, that are misdiagnosed, and unfortunately, we'll put a label on them as crazy or deranged, need their medication. So I think that's really important that you've got this book out and you're doing what you're doing with it. Now, you read an excerpt, because we actually have about another 10 minutes left. You read an excerpt from, I'm assuming that was from Dreams of the Many?
From Dreams of the Few.
Okay. Would you like to read a little bit from the first book? Do you have something in front of me?
I could, or I can read another excerpt from the second one if you want. I haven't picked anything out of Dreams of the Many.
Okay, go on. Whatever you feel comfortable with sharing with us.
I would be happy to do that. The one thing that I wanted to mention when you brought up this whole thing of bullying and labeling, and I think that it's important to talk about, but also for those people who are online, we're talking oftentimes to people who are also authors and maybe looking to publish their own books, or have published their own books. And when we look at labels in the publishing industry, I think there's a whole other kind of connotation to that, and that is that you know, let's say you're scheduling a book signing, or you're trying to get the attention of a literary agent. In this day and age, you can't send unsolicited manuscripts to big publishing houses anymore. No one really wants to talk to you, and book signings are even becoming difficult.
Yeah.
Hence, we're getting very creative with things like Google Hangout and, you know, these kinds of ways of getting our messages out and meeting other people, because we get labeled as independent authors, as independently published authors.
Yes.
And I'd be interested to hear your opinion on that.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and I think you really see it, Susan, when you go back and you read your reviews that you get, especially on like the Amazon site or the Barnes and Noble book site, where now I'm an avid reader. I have been most of my life, and I think one of the reasons why writing comes so easy to me is because I love to read. Now. I can pick up a traditional book, a Simon & Schuster, traditionally published book, and in the midst of reading this book, I'll spot all kind of errors, typos, you know, that nobody, that you don't see anyone commenting on.
Right.
You know, as you see all these 450,000 reviews for these books, and, but you get one self-published or indie author, and somebody reviews their book, and they might really love the book, but they're going to always point out the fact that, well, I did find some typos.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I think that that's really a form of bullying. I really do, because I mean, it's hard enough as an author to put yourself out there with your writing and let the world come up with a determination about whether or not they think you're a good writer or not. So I mean, that in itself is very scary. So then when you get reviews where they're constantly, I mean, nitpicking about little itty bitty things. I think a lot of it too comes from frustrated writers, people that want to write, but they're too afraid to come to put it out there. So they bash other writers for having the courage to do so.
And what I have seen in the last few years too is that even the old, you know, big houses like Simon & Schuster and a lot of these publishers where the editors used to sit and read word for word, everyone has word proofing software now. And so you get big authors like Stephen King and James Patterson, and you're reading their books and you're still seeing errors.
Absolutely.
So you're right. I think there is a label that gets placed on independent authors that hampers us. And if anything, we have to be even more aggressive and more confident about trying to, if we really believe in the work we're doing, then we really have to try to find creative ways to get it out there.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that you have to do is concentrate and focus on the positive reviews. You know, I'm a firm believer in an old saying, chew the meat and spit out the bones. You know, eat the meat and spit out the bones. So if you're finding people that are making just nitpicky type, now constructive criticism is great, but if it's just nitpicking type things, then just, you know, disregard that. Do not allow somebody to have that type of power over you that you're terrified and you're scared about putting another book out there because what you might run into as far as the reviews.
Well, what the protagonist in our story would say, Brody Murphy would say as an actor, stage actor, is don't read your reviews.
And that is so.
You know, don't read the good ones, don't read the bad ones. Just do the work you have to do.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Okay,
I'm going to do another short reading, and then that way they can answer questions for that one, and maybe if they didn't win the prize for the first contest, they can win it for the second one.
And before you start reading, how long would you like the contest to run? Because we're going to also put it on our Author Chat Facebook fan page. So do you have a cutoff date in mind?
I would say we can run it until, let's say November 1st.
November 1st sounds good. Okay. All right. Okay, great.
So I'm going to read this excerpt. Again, let me just set it up for you. Michael is a doctor, friend of Brody's. He has joined the dream in an attempt to try to find his friend who is lost in the dream, and he encounters a pack of wolves within the dream. Wow. So this is his encounter. Michael held his breath and waited. By the time he identified the sound, it was too late to run. The wolves emerged from the shadows, their fur illuminated with an iridescent glow that seemed to come from within. The pack leader was a massive beast with eyes the color of charred steel. The animal stepped forward and his pack lingered in the shadows. Michael stood his ground and met the animal's gaze with resolve. The wolf moved forward with stealthy purpose, never taking his eyes off his prey. His lips drew back to reveal razor-low, guttural growl that raised the hackles on Michael's arms. The wolf turned his head slowly to the left, then to the right. He's communicating with the pack, Michael thought. The covey of brothers assembled around the pack leader and looked to him for a signal. The leader dipped toward the earth, rested on his front legs, ready to lunge. He glowered at Michael and ran his tongue over exposed teeth. It was probably his imagination, but it seemed to Michael that the wolf's eyes had turned from gray to scarlet. He watched as the color of the wolf's eyes shifted and spiraled, morphing with a glassy madness that threatened to pull him into the abyss. The Michael lifted his chin, and the animal glared at him, its teeth bared in a hideous smile. The broad muscles in the wolf's shoulders bunched and tightened, and he lifted off the ground, lunging with terrifying precision. Michael stared into the open maw of the beast and wilted from its burning breath. He spun away, narrowly avoiding the first snap of the wolf's jaw, but the wolf circled to the left and cut off his escape, grabbing at his outstretched arm and locking its jaw around the bone. Michael fell hard. The pack closed around him and the world stalled. The wolves moved in slow motion, descending on him with bared teeth. Michael waited for the pain, but there was none. The pack leader climbed onto his body, ripping at the flesh on his hip with violent abandon. Still, Michael felt nothing. He was tumbling, winding into a kaleidoscopic tunnel where the earth was no longer solid. He rolled onto his back and fought for his life. He could feel it coming, his muscles failing, his arms falling to his sides. His breathing slowed. He opened his eyes and fixed the pack leader with a determined glare. The wolf hesitated, pushed his snout closer to Michael's face, and cocked his head as if he was about to ask an important question. His fur glowed with an alien brilliance that defied description. The massive muscles in his shoulder girdle rolled and tightened under the skin, and the wolf curled his upper lip and bared his fangs. Between the seconds, Michael had enough time to wonder at the animal's pristine dental hygiene. The wolf's eyes turned blood red as he dove to the right, fixed his iron jaw on Michael's neck. Michael rolled into the dream and knew no more.
Awesome.
Okay.
Before I let you go, because we're down to our last minute, I had a coworker ask me just this week. She's a great fan of my books, and she said, Linda, how do you write your books? I mean, what's the process? What do you do? And this is what I told her, and I just want to know, because I asked some of my Facebook fans, authors that are on my Facebook groups, the same question. I told her, I could see a picture, hear something, get an idea, and mull it over in my mind. As I'm writing the book, there's like a picture, like a movie showing in my mind as I write the book. Do you experience this?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, Susan,
yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that lets
and if it is that visual, I think it really helps the readers to see it clearly because you have the vision. And if you can put the words to the vision, then they can see the picture you see.
There you go. Absolutely. Is there? Before I let you go, what are the current prices for your books, the paperback and the Kindle? And do you have the books available on audiobook?
I do not have an audiobook on them yet. They are available on Smashwords in all different ebook formats, okay. Apple, everything, okay, EPUB, everything. They're available on paperback on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. The retail price of Dreams of the Many is $23, okay. And Dreams of the Few $25, but for those people who are entering the contest, there will be a discount on both of those books. So if they want one or both of them, they will be paying $5 less basically for one and $3 less for the other.
Exactly.
So yeah, it'll give you that plus the autographed copies.
Exactly. Now, Susan, if you could, I don't know if you have a JPEG image of your bracelets that you're giving away, but if you can maybe take a picture of them and email it to me, I will put this information as a package on the Author Chat Facebook page along with your email address. Okay. and the 3 questions. That way they have to listen to the interview in order to find the answers to the 3 questions.
Okay.
And I also want to thank you because now the Author Chat show on Google Hangouts on Air is very new. I actually just kind of tried it out just a little bit just to see how it would work, and I really think I like this a little bit more than I actually like my radio show, but I'm going to keep both. But Susan, thank you so much. Yeah, but thank you because you sent me an agenda and I have not had a time to do one for this show. So I just want to let you know that every author from today forward will be getting this, what you sent me as the agenda for them to discuss their book, right? Because this is a great thing for an author to be able to read a passage or excerpt from their book and also to show their information in front of them.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I will send you the image of the bracelets, and I'll send you the JPEGs for the covers of both books.
Right.
And you can post them on there, and then let me know when you've got the Google Hangout posted on YouTube, and I will put it on my Facebook pages as well.
Absolutely. I should have that up and ready for you this weekend, sweetie.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure again.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Susan. You keep in touch and let me know what's going on when our last book comes out. Let me know so we'll get you back on here.
Will do. Thanks, Linda.
Okay.
Have a good night.
No problem. Okay. So that was author Susan Obijiski. I believe I pronounced it right. Great friend. All right, great friend. She's been on our Author Chat show. I think this is maybe her 3rd appearance, twice on the radio show, first time on our Google Hangouts on Air, and she's also assisted me by submitting a wonderful talking point agenda that I can now use as a format for my authors when they want to come on and talk about their books. And one more thing before I let you go, Susan, one thing that I found out, because you're right, book signings are just really, I've noticed people kind of come out more for your refreshments than they do to purchase the book. Especially when you can get the book for so much on a device like Kindle or Nook for so much cheaper than the actual book. So what I have found is that the best way to really do, believe it or not, especially with the type of books that you have with the autism thing, is to maybe do a seminar. If you can get some experts in your field, in your area, you guys come up to get together, maybe have it like a recreation center or a hotel room, talk about the autism issue, and then sell your books afterwards. Absolutely.
Yeah, the other thing I want to mention to you just before we sign off is that on Smashwords, we have a set your own price for the buyers.
Okay.
So you can go there and download the e-version and you can pay what you want to pay.
Wow. You actually use that because I'm on Smashwords as well. Let me know how that works for you.
I will let you know.
But let me and again, I guess Susan and I are going to be on here for another 30 minutes. But one thing that I love about Smashwords is also a great way to send a book to somebody that wants to review it by just sending them a free coupon. And then if they don't have the device, they can just download it in a PDF format and still be able to read it and do a review. Okay.
If you do your research too, what you find is that avid readers now on Kindles and Nooks will read sometimes 20 books a week. So they're used to paying between 99 cents and like $4 a book. Exactly. And if your book is more expensive than that, by letting them set their own price, you don't make it per copy, but you make it in volume.
Exactly. There you go. Wonderful point. Well, Susan, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Always a pleasure. Definitely looking forward to having you come back on and talk about the last book in the series.
Thank you very much, Linda. You have a great evening.
You too, sweetheart. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
That is the end of our show for this evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back here next Thursday. I have Dr. Ken Mask. He is a very well-known, I believe, cardiologist, and he wrote a book called Griffin the Dragon and How to Tame a Bully. So he's going to be on the show next Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in, and it's been a pleasure to share our love of books with you. Good night.